communication. Now, communication is universal to all human beings and it is the central to our lives. It is, in fact, it regulates and shapes all the human behavior. One of the major tasks of extension worker is to communicate the technical information to its users. The technical knowledge is of no use unless it is accepted and adopted by the concerned families. The communication एक human beings के लाइफ का एक सेंट्रल पार्ट है जिससे हम एक दूसरे के साथ बातचीत करते हैं, तो उसे हम कम्युनिकेशन कहते हैं. तो एक्सटेंशन वर्कर के लिए कम्युनिकेशन बहुत जरूरी है क्योंकि बाय कम्युनिकेशन ही वो जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन वो पास करना चाहते हैं फार्मर्स को या रूरल फैमिलीज को, वो उन तक इफेक्टिवली पास कर सकते हैं. So the ability to communicate effectively will determine to the large extent the success of an extension program. It is therefore important to understand concepts of communication, that like what is communication, its importance, elements, types of functions, models of communication, feedback in communication, barriers, how to overcome these barriers, and finally how we can diffuse the technologies for the betterment of the life of rural peoples. So this is why the communication is important in for an extension worker. Now let us understand the meaning of communication. The word communication has been derived from Latin word communis, which means common. The communication word Latin language से derive किया है जिसका meaning है common. That means we share our common thoughts, feeling and ideas with the person with whom we are communicating with the commonness of understanding. इसका मतलब क्या है, कम्युनिकेशन दो लोगों में होते हैं, पर्सन ए एंड पर्सन बी में, जहाँ पे कॉमन अंडरस्टैंडिंग के बेस पे आइडियाज, फैक्ट्स एंड इमोशंस हम शेयर करते हैं एक दूसरे के साथ. So that is the process of communication. So there are various definitions given for communication. So we will see them one by one. In Oxford Dictionary, it is given as transfer or conveying the meaning. By Colin Cherry, he says it is the transmission of stimuli. Charles Osgood, he said it is mechanism through which human relation exist and develop. But communication is not only transferring or transmitting ideas or thoughts. He said that according to Charles, it is not just ideas or thoughts. It is on the basis of which human relations they are existing and developing on the world. Now, according to Newman and Summer, they have given the precise definition, that is, it is exchange of facts, ideas, opinions, or emotion by two or more persons. Now, so he defined communication as intercourse by words, letters, symbol, or message, as the way that one organization member shares the meaning and understanding with the another. So it is transmission. Leland Brown, he said that it is transmission and interchange of facts, ideas, feelings, and course of action. According to Paul Liggins, he has given the comprehensive definition of communication as process by which two or more people exchange ideas, facts, feelings, or impression in way that each gaining a common understanding of message. So this is the definition given by Paul Liggins. So we can summarize that communication, it is between two persons or more than two persons, such a way that on basis of common understanding, they will share not only ideas and thoughts, but also their emotions, their feelings, facts, information, they'll exchange between two persons, two or more persons. So next we'll see the characteristics of communication. Now first characteristics is, it is a two-way process. That is, it involves sender as well as receiver, and whatever information, whether it be facts, figures, any emotion, feelings, or any we can say any directive principle, guidelines, information, it is between two people. Now this sender and receiver may be a particular individual or they may be in the group, but it is a two-way process. Second, there has to be a message. Communication होने के लिए एक message, उसमें message रहना जरूरी है. That message can be anything. It may be information, it can be a guideline, it can be an inquiry, feeling, opinion, idea, or anything. But there should be a message that is exchanged between the two persons or two or more persons. Third is commonness of understanding. Communication can occur only when there is commonness of understanding between the sender and the receiver. Sender and receiver में कुछ तो common होने चाहिए communication to take place the communication. So it may includes common culture, common language, common environment. So these are the commonness of understanding. Fourth is modifying behavior of other individual. The information transmitted to the receiver receives a response in form of some change in behavior of the individual. जो भी एक receiver information gain करता है तो उससे उसमें एक चेंज आता है, उसके बिहेवियर में एक चेंज आता है, वो रिस्पॉन्स देता है उस इंफॉर्मेशन. So it may modify the behavior of other individual. Then method of giving information. Information can be given through words or through other means like sign, gestures, expression. So communication, it is a method of giving information from one to other person. So it can be concluded that communication is a process of social interaction. That is communication situation, two or more individuals, they interact. So it is called the social interaction. They try to be tangibly influence the ideas. They try to influence each other through their ideas, attitude, knowledge, and behavior of each other. So it is the exchange of information, knowledge, ideas, or feeling taking place between two or more individuals. So like this, we can conclude the meaning of communication. Next, we'll see the role of communication in extension. Now, communication is basic for transfer of new information and ideas that is been developed by the scientists. साइंटिस्ट ने जो भी टेक्नोलॉजीज, जो भी रिसर्च किया है वो कॉमन पर्सन तक कैसे पहुंच सकता है? ओनली थ्रू कम्युनिकेशन. जब हम वो आइडियाज एक दूसरे के पास करेंगे, कम्युनिकेट करेंगे, तो ही उसका एक ग्राउंड लेवल तक उसका वो आइडिया ट्रांसफर हो सकती है. सो कम्युनिकेशन देयरफॉर इज ऑफ ग्रेट इंपॉर्टेंस इन कम्युनिटी डेवलपमेंट and extension programs. It is through this process that aims and objective of the programs are widely disseminated to the people and useful information to solve their problems is passed onto them. This is necessary. The extension worker should have thorough understanding of the communication process. So this is the role of communication in the extension. Next, we'll see the functions of communication. The term communication is freely used by everyone in the modern society, including the members of general public, scholars, and management practitioners. So communication ये एक freely used word है modern society में. So communication, as ahead know, is giving and taking of information and on sending and receiving of message either through verbal or non-verbal means. So communication क्या है? It is exchange of information either by giving and taking, that is sending and receiving message either in verbal way or non-verbal way. One of the function of communication which humanity has developed to the extreme social advantage is that communicating to some living aspects of the environment such as person in order to establish, maintain, exploit or alter the relationship with that of person. So main function जो इतने साल तक communication का दिखाई दिया है वो है क्या है? एक social advantage, एक relationship maintain करने, one person to other person में वो रिलेशनशिप डेवलप करने में, मेंटेन करने में कम्युनिकेशन का बड़ा फंक्शन होता है. सो वी कैन फंक्शंस ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन हैव बीन कैटेगराइज्ड बेस्ड ऑन द कंटेक्स्ट ऑफ सोशल साइंटिस्ट. सो बेसिक फंक्शंस ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन अकॉर्डिंग टू थेयर, he has given the information function, the command or instructive function, and third is the influence or persuasive function. So we'll see one by one. Information function. Information is basic to all of the other applied function of communications. In extension, one needs to inform the people about new finding and ideas. So information function क्या है communication का? एक नई आइडिया है, नई टेक्नोलॉजी है, तो वो अदर इंडिविजुअल्स को जिन्हें उसके बारे में पता नहीं उनको उसके बारे में इंफॉर्मेशन पास करना. सो ये इंफॉर्मेशन फंक्शन है कम्युनिकेशन का. कम्युनिकेशन इज परफॉर्म इन ऑर्डर टू पास इंफॉर्मेशन इन द फॉर्म ऑफ facts, news, stories, etc. The getting or giving of information thus underlies all the communication. So communication is not going to occur unless someone is acquired and consuming some information either about himself or his environment. So communication कब तक नहीं हो सकता? जब तक एक इंडिविजुअल अपने knowledge information acquire कर रहा है और either that information will be related to either himself, one who is receiving, or to his environment. Next is the command or instructive functions. Those who are hierarchically superior, suppose in a family or head of the family, businessman, we have boss, military, that is chief person, personal life में often initiate communication either for in purpose of informing their subordinates or for the purpose of telling them what to do. When communication में हम command देते हैं, instructions देते हैं, तो उसे हम इंस्ट्रक्टिव फंक्शन कहते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल एक फैमिली में हेड ऑफ द फैमिली है, वो अपने फैमिली के रूल्स पास कर रहे हैं, वो बता रहे हैं, तो वो इंफॉर्मेटिव फंक्शन. अगर ऑफिस कल्चर में बॉस कुछ बता रहे हैं तो इंस्ट्रक्शंस दे रहे हैं, दैट इज द इंस्ट्रक्टिव फंक्शन ऑफ communication. This type of communication is called as command or instructive, that is ordering someone or giving or taking instructions. In hierarchical system, subordinates must accept certain kinds of order from the superiors to do certain kinds of job. Now, command and instructive function of communication are more observable in formal organization than in informal. Formal office में ज़्यादा ये दिखाई command function ज़्यादा दिखाई देता है. Whenever we order or direct another person's behavior in some way, communication which occur is serving the command purpose. Whether this order is given by one person or by someone in collective way, it is command function of communication. That order giving person, he may be an individual or it may be in group. Next is the influence or persuasive. The main purpose of communication is influence or to bring about change in the behavior of other persons. So this influencing or purposive function of communication has stressed by Barlow and Aristotle. Barlow और Aristotle ने इस function पे बहुत ज़्यादा attention दिया है. In extension, main aim of extension worker is to influence the individual to change his beliefs, values, understanding, and to persuade the individual to act in a desired way. जब हम एक दूसरे person को influence करने के लिए communicate करते हैं तो उसे हम communication का influencive function कहते हैं. Integrative function, communication takes place in order to energize, organize, and channelize the behavior of individual in a society. These become embedded in social system, art, literature, beliefs, and institutional practice. A major function of communication is integration or bringing about togetherness and understanding of all members at the organization level. It helps to maintain individual, societal, and organizational stability. This is the integrative function of communication. Next, we'll see some other functions like Seal McBride. He says that communication brings about change in the society. So according to him, functions of communication, he has given the communication function as information. That is, it passes the information brought by the communication helps in changing the society. So it is exchange of information. Next is socialization. Communication can help people to socialize and come together on common platform. So human being को social human being बनाने में communication का बहुत बड़ा हाथ होता है इसे, according to Seal McBride. Then motivation, to motivate people, to motivate the society to bring change for their betterment. तो उसे मोटिवेशन करने के लिए कम्युनिकेशन थ्रू हम मोटिवेट कर सकते हैं फॉर द बेटरमेंट, फॉर द अचीवमेंट ऑफ द इंडिविजुअल. डिस्कशन एंड डिबेट. The fact that communication allows us to discuss and debate an issue that holds extremely important for by doing so that we can resolve any politician or social issue solve करने हैं हमें, तो discussion होता है, debate होता है, that is through the communication. Next is education. Now, education is backbone of the society. So to educate, to conduct, have the smooth education facility, we need the communication. Then cultural promotion, that is, communication helps people to be informed about different cultural variations that country and the world enjoys. So knowing and understanding them can help us to understand one another and live in peace and prosperity. So these are the different functions given by Seal McBride. Then we'll see the classification of communication. First is the intrapersonal communication, that is, communication that takes place within oneself is called as intraperson. No person is involved. Self-thought, sender and the receiver is one person only here in intrapersonal communication. खुद से ही communicate करना, खुद से ही बात करना, तो उसे हम intrapersonal communication. Behind the thoughts in the mind, we'll be communicating with oneself. So that is the interpersonal. Some example are interpreting maps, text, interpreting non-verbal communications like gestures, eye contact, communication between body parts, that is my stomach is telling me it's time for lunch. Day and night dreaming. So these are the example of intrapersonal. Interpersonal matlab communication between two or more people, that is called as interpersonal, जहां हम एक दूसरे के साथ थॉट्स, हमारे फीलिंग्स, आइडियाज, इंफॉर्मेशन एक्सचेंज करते हैं दो या दो लोगों से ज्यादा, तो उसे हम इंटरपर्सनल कहते हैं. इट कैन बी इनफॉर्मल, like we talk with our friends, or it can be formal, such as we discuss with our teacher, we discuss in with our office colleagues. So that is the formal communication. The most common function of interpersonal communication are listening, talking, and discussing. Type of interpersonal communication vary from verbal to non-verbal and from situation to situation. Interpersonal communication involves face-to-face communication. Next, we have the group communication. Group communication, when there occurs between more than two people, we term is as group communication. There can be small group or large group. Small group matlab communication that carried out within the group that consists of at least 3 members to maximum 12 to 15 members. तो उसे हम small group कहते हैं. Now, a group that has 2 members or more than 15 members would not come in the small category. They will come under the large group communication. Now, small group may also be family, or talking on a dinner table, or a meeting of an organization with just few members. So these are the example of small groups. Large group communication, it refers to communication between larger group than more than 15 members. Example, a village group, town group, where hundreds of people they will gather and they will have the discussion, communication. So this is the large group communication. Now in an organization, there are two ways of communication, namely formal and informal communication. So formal communication, it takes place through formal channels of organization structure along the lines of authority established by the management. That means there is clear guidelines on who should communicate with whom and how to communicate the information. Such communication are generally in writing and may take off in the forms of policy, manuals, procedure, rule books, memoranda, official meetings, reports. So this is a formal. How to communicate, channels of communication, everything will be set. So how the subordinate people will so that is ground level staff will communicate with the high level management. So these all things are given in the procedure. So such is called as formal communication, and it usually takes place in writing. Advantage, it helps in the fixation of responsibility, that is which person is responsible for which act, that is fixation of responsibility, and maintaining the authority of relationship in an organization. Disadvantages, it is generally with the procedures to be followed, many times frequency to follow rules and regulations, many distortions occurs. Rules and regulations follow करना बहुत कम लोग यहाँ follow करते. Informal communication, it is built around the social relationship among the members. There is no rules and regulation regarding the mode of communication, channel of communication. It takes place normally between the two individuals. Just if they can be unknown to each other also, then also informal communication can take place, and nothing like that. It is only written. It is usually oral by simple glance, gesture, smile. These all are the informal communication. Then mass communication. It is termed to describe the relay of information through large segments of population at the same time. That is, information is passed to the large segment of population at the same time. Then we say that it is mass communication. Example, newspaper, magazine, radio, television, films. These are all the example for mass communication. Then we'll see types of communication. Communication that occurs through various processes and methods through different channels. So types of communication based on communication channels, we can say. Based on the channels, the process of communication can be broadly classified as verbal and non-verbal. Verbal communication includes written and oral communication, whereas non-verbal includes body language, facial expression, visuals, diagrams and pictures. So first let us see the non-verbal. Non-verbal में क्या होता है? Body language, हम जो बात करते हैं, oral speaking, body posture, हमारा hand gesture, overall body movement, हमारे facial expression, oral hand, for example, our face expression to say, we'll say a lot about things which we want to say. Then our hand gesture, like handshake, smile, a small hug, that conveys our emotion. So non-verbal can take place in any form. It can be pictorial representation, signboards, even photographs, sketches and painting. So these are all the non-verbal communication. And verbal communication, when we use the when words are used as tools of interaction between two or more individuals, it is known as verbal communication. Here it can be oral or written, in which information is directly either face to face or through media like telephone, internet, through emails. So we can pass the information. Researchers have found that on an average, a person spends 10 to 11 hours every day in verbal communication, that is speaking, listening, reading, and writing. And some forms of verbal communication are conversation, speech, letter, newspaper, magazines. So these are the different examples. Now verbal communication further is divided into written and oral. Written includes newspaper, letters, email, and oral includes our spoken words, our speech, that is face-to-face communication. Then in oral communication, merits are which it saves money and time saving device. As there are element of personal touch, it is effective. Doubts can be clarified at is on the spot, that is face to face. Important points may be given more preference. Effect of communication can be measured easily, and it is flexible. So these are the merits. Limitations are it is not possible when clients are far away. So when we are conversing on telephone, long discussion is not possible on telephone. It is not suitable for lengthy communication. There is no permanent record of communication. Oral communication अगर हम उसका recording नहीं कर रहे तो हमें हमारे पास permanent record नहीं रहता. Sometimes oral communication may be taken seriously by the receiver, and if it lacks in expression, oral communication is likely to misunderstood and misinterpreted. अगर हमारे face expressions और हमारे word match नहीं हो रहे तो वहां पे मिसअंडरस्टैंडिंग और मिसइंटरप्रिटेशन हो सकता है. रिटन कम्युनिकेशन में ऑफन आइदर वाया मेल और बाय लेटर. The effectiveness of written communication depends on the style of writing, our vocabulary, grammar, clarity in the words. So merits of these are it is suitable for lengthy communication, can be reached any distance, permanent record can be maintained, chances of missing out information is less here, and it is referred anytime. It can be referred anytime. Limitation, it is costly and time consuming. There is no immediate feedback. It is not effective as oral communication, difficult to manage file, papers, and records, and it needs the trained and skilled people for effective communication through written communication. Then non-verbal communication, communication that takes place without word, our senses, ears, eyes, our 5 senses, listening, seeing, touching, smell. These are the codes through which we exchange our information. So when alarm clock rings in the morning, it communicates the message, that is it times to wake up. So these are here are the different examples. Eyes can transmit feelings like love, hate, anger, sorrow. Simple nod of head can convey your yes or no. So this is type of non-verbal communication. Non-verbal communication between man and his environment is constantly happening, but we do not notice it. For example, in summer season, hot sun and warm winds make us uncomfortable, whereas sky overcast with the cloud transmit the mood of joy. So there is also non-verbal communication between a human being and the environment. Next, process of communication. Process of communication, which will start with the transmission of message till the sender receives it. So there is various ways through which the communication takes place. So communication process, it starts with the sender and ends on the receiver. They are tuned together. What a sender sends to a receiver should be understood by the receiver the way sender wants to send it. Sorry. If receiver does not perceive the message correctly, communication is not said to be effective. Next, process of communication. In process of communication, there are 5 steps. In 5 steps, we have first ideation, then second is encoding, transmission, decoding, and feedback. So in the process of communication, 5 steps. In that first one, we will see that is ideation. Okay, the process of communication begins with the ideation, that is which refers to formation of idea or selection of message to be communicated. हमें क्या communicate करना है वो select करते हैं हम given information में जो information हमें pass करनी है उसे हम जब select करते हैं that is process of ideation. So it consists of what communication and concerned with the content, what message has to be present passed. So the scope of ideation generally determines the sender's knowledge. So ideation consists of finding and selecting of subject or looking for the ideas and thoughts that has to be shared. Next is encoding. Next step it is where the information which has to be passed, that will be coded. That is in a logical form, the message will be coded. That is called as encoding. That is encoding process is based on the purpose of communication and relationship between the sender and receiver. So encoding includes language, medium of communication, and appropriate communication form. So here selecting your right language is very effective. Verbal message, that is language code, how the which can be decoded easily by the receiver. Then receiver has easily understand which language to use. Now person who does not understand Tamil, if we are communicating in Tamil, he cannot be able to decode it. So this is the selection of language. Then medium. The next is medium of communication, whether it is verbal, non-verbal, written, oral. Then selecting of appropriate communication form, that is sender receiver relationship and the overall goal. Based on that, whether oral communication, it may be face to face, or group communication, speaker audience communication, telephonic communication. So that based on the appropriate communication form. So here interpersonal communication form, face to face communication, example are casual conversation, formal interaction. In group communications we have meetings, speaker audience, that is speech, debates. Telephonic communication, personal interaction, business deals. Written communication, we have reports, proposal, letter, email. So these are the communication forms. The next is transmission, that is flow of message, through which channel it will flow. We have to select the communication channel, and that channel should be free from any interference or noise, so that message will receive the message will be received by the receiver without any disturbance. So for example, when you want to tell your teacher that you will not be able to attend next class, you decide whether you should tell him or her before the class or after the class, in the classroom itself or in his chamber. For communication to be effective, it is essential that right time, right place, and right method is chosen. So this is the transmission. Next, decoding. Once the decoding is the process of converting the message into thoughts by translating the received stimuli. That is, when the receiver will receive the message, he will decode it in his own way, in his own language. Whatever he has received, he will decode it. He will understand the meaning of the message. That is the process of decoding. So decoding involves interpretation and analysis of message. In decoding in written communication is reading and understanding, and on other hand, in oral communication, it refers to listening and understanding. For effective decoding, it is important that communication should be done without misinterpretation of message. Then last is the response or feedback. Whenever now receiver, he will decode the message, he will understand the message, he will respond to it, he will give his feedback, he will give his reaction to the sender, he will send it. That is the response or feedback. It is action or reaction of a receiver to the message. It helps the sender to know whether the message has received and understood. The feedback that goes to the sender makes it clear whatever the receiver has accepted the information and filled in its or his memory, or has rejected the information.